Now we had a user. Now understand the difference between circular trigger and recursive trigger. Now this fellow done a love marriage, boss. If this fellow done the love marriage, who invited his problems? Right? This fellow had done love marriage. Who invited his problem? He himself called his problems. Okay. While looking at this, this fellow done arranged marriage, boss. He informed his parents. His parents called agent. Agent brought married. Now who invited his problems? Now A called B, B called C, C called A. Now what was this called? Circular triggers. Now what was this, boss? Recursive. So if you call yourself, it is recursive. You call A call B, B call you. It is a circle. At the end of the game, both of them are what? Loops. Both of them are what? Loops. Both of them will cause abnormal behavior. Both of them are loop. Both of them will cause abnormal behavior. So both of them are causing what? Circular triggers. One is the recursive, another is circular. A calling A, again A calling A calling. You call A call A call A call A. A call B, B call C, C call A call B, B call C, C call A. Recursive and circular. Now both of them are the problem for us. So we need to avoid this. How do you avoid this? To avoid this, we are going for a concept of Boolean static variable. We are going for a concept of Boolean static variable. Now let us move on to the story. Look at the point. Now on account object, I have a trigger. Trigger. Example. When was this trigger called? When was this trigger called? When an insert is happening on the table. When you try to insert a record on the account, when you try to insert a record on the account, when you try to insert a record on the account, this trigger is called. This trigger is called when you try to call a record on the account. Right. Now, within the trigger, this is how we get. Right. So what was this? We are trying to insert a record in the account. Within the account trigger, again I was trying to insert. The moment I say insert the account, what is happening? Again it will call. When insert, again it is going to call. Before insert on account. Before insert on account means the same trigger, right? The same trigger. When you say before insert on account, again the same trigger is called. When you call the same trigger again it is trying to insert an account. Again same trigger. Now on whichever the object you are writing a trigger, with whatever the event you are writing a trigger, same DML operation if you perform, it goes for what? It goes with the recursive trigger. In the insert trigger on account, if you try to make an insert operation, it throws recursive trigger. With the insert trigger on account, if you try to perform an insert operation, with the insert trigger on account, if you try to perform an insert operation, with the insert trigger on account, if you try to perform insert operation, then we are going to call it as recursive trigger. We are going to call it as recursive trigger. With the insert trigger on account, if you try to perform insert operation, with the insert trigger on account, if you try to perform insert operation, it is going to throw an error called recursive trigger. Are you getting my point? Right? If the trigger is insert trigger on account, within the trigger you are trying to perform insert operation on account, then it is going to throw an error which is called recursive trigger, which is called recursive trigger, Is that was clear for everyone? Am I clear? Let us give this one. First, I'll try to deactivate the existing triggers, as I'm not sure what logics are running here. Try to get this example. I'm giving I made this operation. So when you call this, what is happening? When you call this, insert is going to happen, right? Then now on account object in the before insert, I am calling call me. What this call me is doing? It is trying to insert one more account. When you insert an account, again it call before insert. Again call me insert account again before. Right, Amma? So what is that? On an object, if you are writing a before insert trigger, in the trigger on the same object, you should not perform insert. If it is an update trigger on the same object, you should not perform update operation. Is that was clear, boss? Okay. So go back to the story. Insert the data. What happened? Before insert. Now recursive. Right, boss? Then how do you handle this? Simple logic. Boolean static. Okay. We have taken static variable. When I say static variable, what happens, boss? Static means for all the objects, same variable will be used. Then I'm taking here if flag equal to true, then only do this logic. Then if flag equal to true, then only we perform this operation. If flag equal to true, make the flag equal to false, run the operation. Second time when you call the same method, now it is going to be false, so don't run the operation. So by using a simple Boolean static variable, we are able to handle it. If it is true, run it. If it is false, stop it. Once it is true, when you are running the operation, make the value equal to false, run it. Make the value equal to false, run it. Is that was clear? Clear? Okay. Now go back to the story again.
Sir, so in this case, will we have two rows, two rows created? I mean, two records created
Exactly.
for this?
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Now you are already inserting a record. It is called before insert. Before insert is also inserting one record. Stop. Right, ma? So this logic is
Okay.
going to run only once. Right, ma? Okay. This is how we create. So how do you handle the recursive triggers? By using Boolean static variable. Is that was clear? Okay. Now the practical context. There is one more practical context. Okay. Generally asked in the interviews, but okay. Rarely you will be using this requirement you will be getting. Let me give the requirement clearly for you. So this type of scenario you may encounter. Let me give the context. Listen to the point. I have a trigger. This trigger should run. Now I have a trigger. Listen to the context. Listen to the requirement carefully. Let's reveal in the logic. Listen to the context carefully. There may be a possibility that you may encounter this type of issues. Now, we don't want the trigger to run for we don't want the run the logic for the Satish. The trigger logic should run for everyone except trigger logic should run for everyone except Satish. So other than Satish, if anybody is inserting the data, trigger should run. Then how do you handle it? Find the okay, get the current user first name. Get the current user first name. User info. Get first name. The current user whoever has logged in, his first name. The current user whoever has logged in, his first name. If first name equal to Satish, if the first name not equal to Satish, run the logic. So this logic is going to run for everyone except Satish. Am I right? When first name is not equal to Satish, run it. Very good. Now this logic will run for everyone except Satish. Okay. Go to the account. Right. I have SGFC. What happened? Rating not assigned. That means trigger is not running. If trigger is running, reading equal to code, ownership is private. So logic is not running for Satish. Very good. But tomorrow, after 10 days, I decided logic should run for Satish also. What will you do? Now today this is the requirement. After 1 week I told even for Satish trigger should run. Then what should I do? Go to trigger, remove this statement and again compile it, again test it, again deploy it. After 10 days I told for Hari and Prasad trigger should not run. Again what will you do? Go to the trigger, okay, modify it. So every time you are making, every time you want to control execution of a trigger, you are going to the code trying to modify it. It is not a good practice. Is there any other choice that we have? Yes, we have a concept called hierarchical custom setting. We have a concept called hierarchical custom setting, using which we can control the execution of a triggers without modifying the code. Hierarchical custom settings, where I can control execution of the code without modifying any program, without modifying any line in the program. What is this custom setting? How will you use it? What is the purpose of it? Custom setting. So try to understand the concept of custom setting. Generally, where is the data stored? Any data you want to store, where is the data stored? Object. Am I right? Any data you want to store, we store them to the object. If the data is stored to the object, how will you fetch it? Write a SQL query, fetch it. Any data you want to store, that is stored to object. If you want to fetch it, we are supposed to go with a SQL query. We are supposed to go with a SQL query. Now, I am going to enter customer. Customer data I am entering. In the customer data, I have branch name. Once I enter the branch name, branch code should come. Now, for every customer, the branch name should be entered. The customer, okay, in which branch you are taking a loan. Now, every customer I am creating, I am going to get branch code. Now, if I need a branch code, I have to go to the object. I have to write a SQL query, get the corresponding branch code, save it. Because entire data is saved to object. If you require any data, I need to go to object, write a SQL query and get it. But this is frequently used data. Every customer will have branch. Every time I have to go to object and fetch it. Now, any data is frequently used. You are trying to fetch the data. What is the solution we have? What is the solution we have? So here the context is, listen carefully. Here the context is. Here the context is. Now the point here, you got a, let us take your information mark. Now, in the wallet, you will be taking some data. You have passport, Aadhaar card, driving license, and your credit cards. Okay, you got Aadhaar card, passport, driving license, property tax, house registration documents. Okay, your credit card, your debit card. Which will you carry in your pocket? Will you carry your passport, house registration documents along with in your pocket? No, right? So what is that? Boss, every data you want, you are safely putting in a locker. But the data which we frequently use, you carry the documents along with you. Now, driving license, every time I put in my wallet, because there is a possibility that there may be, okay, an inspection at the road, okay, asking for the driving license. Or, okay, I may carry my credit cards, but I want to, okay, if I want to do any payments, I do with my credit cards, so I may carry my credit cards. Why are you carrying those cards in your wallet? Frequently used. Now, every time, if somebody on the road, traffic inspector, okay, stops you, asks you to show your driving license, I cannot go home, open my locker and get the driving license. Right? Am I right or wrong? Now, instead of doing that, we are carrying the driving license always in our wallet. Why? Because there is a possibility of usage of this frequently. When there is something which you are frequently using, instead of carrying them, putting them in the locker, you are carrying it along with you. The same story is happening here. Data is stored to the object. Anytime you want the data, go to the object, write a SQL query, get the data. Boss, but there is a data which we are frequently using. When you are using the data frequently, if I have to go to object every time, write a SQL query, it is, okay, decreasing the performance. Now the frequently used data should not be in object, should be stored in cache so that I can work on it faster. I can retrieve it faster. So what is that? Data should be stored, but I should not write a SQL query. Data should be stored, but I should not write a SQL query. Without writing any SQL query, I want to fetch the data. Without writing any SQL query, I want to fetch the data. Then there comes the concept of custom setting. What is a custom setting? Custom setting is also like a custom object. Custom setting is also like a custom object. The way you store the data in custom object, in the same way we store the data in custom settings. The way we store the data in custom settings, the same way we store the data in custom object, in the same way we store the data in custom settings. But the data which is stored to custom setting, we will not write SQL query, straight away we can fetch it. Any data which is stored to custom setting can be retrieved without writing SQL query. Any data which is stored to custom setting can be retrieved without writing SQL query. Both of them are same, but custom object, write a query, get the data. Custom setting, directly get the data without writing a query. I hope the concept is clear. Right? Custom setting, custom object, any data that is stored to custom setting can be retrieved without writing any SQL query. Is that was clear? Okay. Now look at the story now. There are two types of custom setting: list custom setting, hierarchy custom setting. Let us see how to create. Setup, go to administer, data management, schema settings, enable the custom setting type. First, setup, administer, data management, then you got schema settings, enable the format. Then we are going to create custom settings. Setup, build, develop, custom settings. Setup, build, develop, custom settings. Then what we have here? What type of custom setting is this? We have a list, we have hierarchy. First I am taking list. Now, like a custom object only we got the story, underscore C. Then I create the custom fields. Currency, price, quantity, then after creating the fields, we are having an option. What was this? Click on the manage, new, this is how we got it. Now, like a custom object, right? So look at the story. Now, when you look at this, setup, I want to retrieve the data. How do you retrieve the data? I should not write any SQL query, but I was supposed to retrieve the data. Map of whatever the name field is there, that will act as a key. In the custom setting, whatever the name field is there, that will act as a key. The custom setting will act as a value. Book __ c dot get all. Get all the custom setting dot get all. Custom setting dot get all. Get all the records in the custom setting. Custom setting dot get all. Custom setting dot get all. Custom setting dot get all. All the records in the book are fetched. Custom setting dot get all. All the records in the custom setting is fetched. Then how do you get the keys? Set of string. Then how to get all the values? Get the values. Now take one by one value. Now once you got the map, I can give the book name, get the corresponding value. But I want to print all the values, so I am taking like this.
This maybe I have not get values, right?
Come again. Get all. Get all. Get all means all the records in the custom setting. Values means only the values from the map. Values is a function on the map, not on the custom setting. Key set is not the function on the custom setting. It is a function on the map. Just to convey. So without writing the query, without writing any SQL query, we are trying to fetch all the data. This is how we got the data. So what was that? Custom setting is also like a custom object where we can store the data. Where we can store the data. Where we can store the data. But the data which is stored to custom setting, the data which is stored to custom setting can be retrieved without writing a SQL query with a simple function called get all. When I say get all the records in the custom setting will be coming without any query. Then once you got the data in the form of map, now you apply map.get of key, you get the corresponding value. Is that was clear? Now the data which is stored in the custom setting, can be retrieved without writing any SQL query. The previous example what I told, branch name, branch code. Now when you are entering the branch name, so simply you can say map.get of branch name, we get the branch code. Are you getting my point here? Now if I give the branch name, we are going to get the custom setting record. In that record, find out the branch code, apply it. Without writing any SQL query, we can get the data, we can use it. The data which is frequently used, instead of putting them in the custom object, put them in the custom setting so that we can retrieve the data without writing any SQL query. It can improve the performance. Okay, this is one format. What is the second format we have? The This is actual format what we are looking for. Now I have a table. The name. I have a table. Listen carefully. This is our requirement. I have a table. In the table, I have some data. This is the record what I have. I have a table and this is the record what I have. Now there are a group of users. The group of users. Now let anybody open. What is the data that will be opened for them? Capital 10,000. There are 3 users who are opening it. Now let anybody open. The value that is opened is let anybody open. What is the value that is getting opened? Capital 10,000. Let anybody open. The value that is getting opened is capital 10,000. Am I right? Now, for everyone, the same value is getting opened. Why? Because in the table, if I save the data, let anybody open, same data will be visible. But for me, my requirement is not like this. My requirement is for Kiran it should be capital 9,000. For Ram it should be capital 6,000. For Sham it should be 12. Same record. I don't want to store. I don't want to give the same value for all the people. For different people, I want to store different values. Now, can I do this in the object? In the object, can I store the different values for different user? It is not possible. In the object, I can store a record. Let anybody open, same values will come. But what I want to store different values for different user. For Kiran, one set of value. For Ram, one set of value. Sham, one set of value. Now, when you want to store different set of value for different user, that's where I go with the hierarchical custom setting. Hierarchical custom setting allows you to store different set of value for different users and profiles. Let me give you that. Setup, build, develop, custom settings, new custom setting, my data. What type of custom setting is this? I was creating some fields here. Like this I have given. After giving this, click on manage. Default value for entire organization, value is true. This is the value for everyone in the organization. These people. For profile or user, you can choose. For system admin profile or student profile, true. One more. For Satish, false. So what was that? I was able to store the data differently for different people. Right? Now let us take an example. The nodes I'll give it, paste it, critical nodes. Satish. Okay. Now try to get my data 1 equal to my data dot get instance. Get the instance of who is that you? Satish. Get the instance of you, Satish. For Satish, get me the value from the custom setting. Similarly, my data the instance of this, get the value for Wilson. Get the value for Wilson. Get the value for Wilson. Execute it. My data this is not user ID. One quick minute. There is instance. I gave user, it is supposed to be user ID. Go back and see. We got false 50,000 for Satish, true 7777 for the Wilson. So different people have different data. From the same object, we are able to fetch the data. From the same object, we are able to fetch the data. So what happened? We can store different data for different users. We can store different data for different users. Now what I am going to do now? Instead of writing this logic, I'm going to do. Take care. Look at the point. My data equal to the current user info dot get the user ID. Whoever is running the logic, based on that user, get the data. Now see, if the data dot active true, run it. If the value of active is true, run the logic. Whoever is the current user who created the record, get that user. Based on that user, find out the data in the custom setting. If the data is true, run the logic. Go back to the story. As far as Satish is concerned, the value is false. When I create this, logic is not running. Tomorrow, I decided for Satish also, the logic should run. What I will do? Don't go to the trigger. Go to the custom settings. Go to the custom setting. Go to the Satish. Activate. Now what I'm doing, go back to account again. Save it. Now trigger is running. So without modifying the code in the trigger, I was able to control the execution of the trigger for the user. Tomorrow for Wilson, I don't want the trigger to run. Go to hierarchical custom setting. For user, Wilson, put this data. If it is false, it will not run. If it is true, it will run. So what is happening? Without touching the code in the trigger, we want to control execution of the trigger. How it is possible? By using hierarchical custom setting. Put a condition. If the value in this, if the active is true, run the logic. Now you maintain the value of that active from hierarchical custom setting. Create a hierarchical custom setting, create a field called active. If that is true, run the logic. False, don't run the logic. Tomorrow, if you don't want trigger to run for a particular user, go there for this user, active false. You want the trigger to run for the existing user, For this user, active equal to true. So we can control execution of trigger for a particular user or a profile without modifying the code every time. Is that was clear? Okay. I also have a requirement like this. I have 10 triggers. I don't want the logic to run. I don't want this logic to run. I want to deactivate all the 10 triggers. How will you do this? I have 10 triggers. I don't want any one of these triggers to run for Satish. How will you do that? Then create a hierarchical custom setting in every trigger, right? If active, run it. Go to hierarchical custom setting, say false. All the 10 triggers will not run for you. Are you getting my point? At a time, I want to deactivate all the triggers. At a time, I don't want all the triggers to run. At a time, I don't want all the triggers to run. I want to stop all the triggers. I want to run all the triggers. Then how will you do? Will you go to every trigger every time, deactivate, activate? I cannot do that. If I have 20 triggers, what will you do? That's why I am putting a condition, hierarchical condition. If it is active, run this logic. Then I'll go to hierarchical custom setting. I'll make it true. All the triggers will run. Make it false. All the triggers will stop. Is that was clear? Right? So how can you control the execution of a trigger for a particular user or a profile? By using hierarchical custom setting. What is a custom setting? Custom setting is to store data. Whatever the data that is stored to custom setting, the data can be retrieved without writing a SQL query. How many types of custom settings we have? 2 types of custom setting: list custom setting and hierarchy custom setting. I hope everybody is good. List is what? Just storing a data. Hierarchy is what? Hierarchy is what? Storing the data, different data for different users or profiles. Now tell me one more example where I can use custom setting. Now I have zip code, geolocation. I'm a shipment services. I will provide the shipment to only particular, like in the Amazon, when you open pin code number you enter, they say shipment is available or not, and how long that takes. Okay. Now I am a shipment service. I provide my services to only 40 places. When you enter the pin code number, geolocation has to be fetched. When I am providing the service to the 10 locations only, the 40 locations only, this is fixed value. My geolocations are, my pin codes are 40 pin codes are there. Only to these locations I provide. When somebody select the pin code, automatically the geolocation should be added. When the geolocation is added, automatically I can find out a formula to find out the distance between 2 locations. Now what is that? Now I can store this data in an object, but every order I receive, they will enter the pin code. For every order they enter the pin code. Now for every order I have to go to object, write a SQL query, get the geolocation. Now boss, this is commonly used for every record. Then I don't want to write a SQL query. I don't want to hit the SQL limits. I don't want to write a SQL query. Custom setting, zip code, geolocation. Branch code, branch name, branch code. Branch name, IFC code. Are you getting my point? So the data which everybody is using frequently for every record, that we put in custom setting. Is that was clear? There is a list. Hierarchy is controlling the execution of a triggers, controlling the execution of a code for a particular user or for a particular profile. We will control with the hierarchical custom setting. Is that was clear, Amma? Clear? Everyone is good with this example? Followed or not?
Satish,
Yes.
one small question. In the Apex class that you have hard-coded name as first name as Satish. So can I change it dynamically without changing any code? And is there anywhere I can set it up?
No. See, programmatically if you write it, now he has a query. Without custom setting, you want to handle it. Without custom setting is not possible. That's the reason we are going for a custom setting.
No. Sorry. My question is, can you please go to that Apex class that you have written?
Yes.
Yeah. So not in this one. Actually, I'm going to the other one where you have written the name as first name as Satish in the earlier code. Yeah, and you're comparing the first name equal to Satish, right?
Yes.
So in place, so later, some point of time, I just want to change the name Satish to something else, without changing any code. Is there
No,
anywhere that configuration setting that I can do?
the configuration setting itself is custom setting. The configuration setting, what we are doing itself is called custom setting. Got it? Without doing this, we want to achieve it. That's the reason we are going for a custom setting. Got it? The solution for your question is itself, the solution itself, custom setting. Right.
That means through this we can achieve that config property file or that config file to hold that key value of your things. We can achieve this thing, right?
No. See, what do you mean by config file again? We are going out of the box. Go ahead. What is a config file?
No, where we basically store that key value pair as a global thing which we can use anywhere it is required.
Yeah.
You don't need to deploy.
Now, custom setting is like a global object. Any object data which is stored, I can use that object in any Apex code. Okay. In simple, I can say, whatever the Salesforce standard global objects are there, you want to create your own custom global objects, please meet your microphone. Whatever the Salesforce defined standard objects are there, global objects. Now we are using user info dot first name. Why? It is a global object. Like that, you are defining your own global object, which is called a custom setting. Now, any data which is stored to an object can be used anywhere in the Salesforce, right? Now, if I create a customer table, is it only restricted to Trigger? Is it only restricted to Visualforce? No. Anywhere in the application I can use it without writing the query. So, custom setting is also a global object which can be used anywhere in the application without writing a SQL query. Right, Amma? I hope you got the point. Is that was clear, boss?
No, we are not talking about the custom setting. Actually, when you're comparing that name equal to Satish in place of Satish, something else say Sam. I want to just change it to the Sam. I don't want to go to the code and change it. I can just configure it in the configuration file. Something like in Java, we have a configuration file. On Cbel, we have a list of values where I can just change the name in place of Satish. I'll put Ram, so that the code will execute. I'll not just compare with the hard code value.
Now look at the point. I got your story. Now, there we are going to put a custom label. Custom label. We can create a custom label, put the value of a custom label as Satish and use it. But for you want the same thing to happen for 10 people, what will you do? I got your point. He has a point. Satish is there. Now, without modifying the code, I want some other location where I can put the Satish. Okay. Then if I modify the Satish there, it will become Sham. Check for the Sham. Okay. The programmatically, I don't want to use a custom setting, but you want to compare the Satish. Okay. You don't want to give the Satish directly. You want to store the Satish somewhere else, and you want to use it. Now, there are two options without a custom setting. What you can do, create one table. In the table, create the field, value equal to Satish. You write a SQL query, get the data. If it is okay, whichever the user is this, if the current user equal to this user, okay, run it. So I can store in a custom object, write a query, get the data. One choice. Other one, we have custom labels. Custom labels. Right. Now, you can take this label, whatever the value of this label is there, this is a global data again, $user.value. If it is Satish, their value will be Satish. If it is Kumar, if I modify here, there will be Kumar. So this will run for only one particular user. What if you want to run for 10 users? You got your point here. Now we are putting the value as a label here. Now I can take the label. If the label value, current user name and label value both are same, run the logic. Now what is the current label name? Satish. This is fetched without writing any query. Okay, it's a label. Now current label and current user, both of them are same, run the logic. Okay. Tomorrow you want to change the Satish to Hari. What do? Go to the settings, remove Satish to Sam, run it. This will run only when you want to compare one particular value. Now I say I want to control the execution for a profile. Then how will you do it? I want to say I want to execute the logic for 4 people, not for entire organization. Then what will you do? Got my point? So your choice can be achieved, your requirement can be achieved by using a custom label concept. Is that was clear, boss? The guy who has asked me, is that was clear for you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to the custom label.
Thank
And, right. Now listen to the context, Amma. The overall conclusions. Now what was the story? Read operation, write operation, SQL, DML. So the variables are, these are the variables what I have, right? Trigger.new, trigger.old, trigger.old map. This is what we are being using in the entire trigger operation. In the entire trigger operation, this is a concept what we are using. First I am taking before insert. In the before insert, do you have trigger.new? In the before insert trigger, do you have a concept called trigger.new? In the before insert, do you have trigger.new or not? Right? So if it is a before trigger, what we perform? Read, write, no SQL, no DML on trigger.new. The records which are in trigger.new, on those records, I can perform read, write, no SQL, no DML. Why? Data is not saved. The records which are in trigger.new, they are not yet saved. Do you have trigger.new map? Why? Trigger.new map will come only after the record is inserted. The record is not yet inserted. There is no concept of trigger.new. Trigger.old. So in the trigger.new, in the before insert trigger, we have only one variable called trigger.new. On the records which are in trigger.new, what I can perform? Read operation and write operation. Then after insert. If it is after insert, do you have trigger.new? Yes. Now records are inserted successfully. In the after insert, the records which are in trigger.new, on those records what I can perform? SQL query, DMLs, read operation. I cannot modify it. Do you have trigger.new? Yes. Because the records are already inserted, we have trigger.new. Next one, we had before update. In the before update, do you have trigger.new? In the before update trigger, do you have the variable called trigger.new? Yes. If it is before, always read, write. The records which are in trigger.new, on those records, read and write. Trigger.new map? Yes. Trigger.old map? Yes. Then I have after. After update. If it is after update, after means what? Always SQL. After will always have SQL and records are already saved. When records are already saved, you cannot write a SQL query to get it. In the above one, I can write a SQL query. Why? Because the modified values are not yet saved. When the modified values are not yet saved, when I write a SQL query, I will get old values only. Old values are there, you modified, you are trying to save it. before saving the new values, if I write a SQL query, what will be there in the database? Old values only. Old values should be changed. Then only I get new value. Before the old values are replaced with the new values, if I write a SQL query, what data I am going to get? Old values. But after update, after the old values are replaced with the new values, if I write a SQL query, I get only new values. Before delete. If it is before delete, there is no concept of before the records are deleted, you can write a SQL query also. Then we have after. Then we have after and delete. If it is after, DML and subcode. After will always have DML and subcode. This is the overall map of which variables are available in the trigger, what operations you can perform. Apart from this, rest all is your this set map one. If you understand this, the complete story is this is the complete story. Which variables are available in which trigger, which variables are available in which event, and on that variables what type of operation I can perform. Which variables are available in which event, what type of operation we can perform. Right. This is what we are getting. Is that was clear? Right. So you need to understand this very carefully. This is the overall understanding of your trigger. The next order of execution of trigger. Trigger execution order. This is also one of the frequently asked interview question. Order of execution of trigger. Now, when you want to execute the trigger, first load the record, then system validation rules, then custom validation rule, then before insert triggers, okay, then validation rules, again duplicate rules, before triggers, again validation rules, again duplicate rules, save the record, after triggers, assignments, auto response, workflow rules, workflow field updates will be there. In the workflow rule, there is a field update. Again, field update rule will be firing the update triggers. Escalation rules, okay, workflow field update, process builders, escalations, entitlement, roll up summary, then update the parent fields, criteria based sharing rules, DML operations is committed, then email setting. Let me put in a understandable format. First, always fetch data or load data. System validation means required fields are entered or not, length of the data. You give length equal to 40 characters, but I give 60 characters. Okay. The next, custom validations. Then before triggers, then validations again, then duplicate rules, then we have save the record, after triggers, then assignment rules, auto response rules, then workflows, workflow field update action. If there's any workflow field update, again it is going to call step number 4. Your process builder. Then we have end date elements. Then we have roll up summary, parent object. Then we have criteria based. Then we have commit the data. So any record you are trying to insert, update, delete or anything, all these steps will run. If you at the end of the game, what we do, insert the data, modify the data, delete the data. At the end of the game, end user, what he is going to do? He is going to create, update, delete or undelete the data. At the end of the game, he is going to perform only this. So as a developer, you are doing all this. End user will only perform search of the data, insert, delete, update, offset, merge, undelete. So when you do any one of these, this is the order in which all the concepts will run. This is the order in which all the concepts will run. Okay. Now look at the point. What are the events we have? Insert, update, delete, undelete. Right? Before, after, insert, before, after, update, before, after, delete, after and delete. If anybody perform merge, what will happen? If anybody perform merge, what will happen? Merge is what? Child records are reassigned to parent 1. Then update on child object and delete on. Then which triggers will be firing? 2 triggers will fire. Update trigger on child record will be fired and delete trigger on parent object will be fired. If you perform offset, insert trigger and on some records insert trigger will be fired, on some records update trigger will be fired, because events are only insert event, update event, delete event, undelete event. If you perform a DML operation of merge, if you perform a DML operation of offset, these are the triggers which are fired. Merge means update on child object, delete on parent object. Right, Amma? I hope everybody is good. Right, Amma? Everyone is good with this concept? Clear? So this is the trigger implementations. Okay. So tomorrow we will have the class at 10:30. 10:30 we will have a class. 10:30 to 1. Okay, 1 o'clock. Online people, you can join the class tomorrow with the ID. I'll give you one meeting ID. Just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. I'll give the meeting ID. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow. This ID is only for Saturday and Sunday. In regular weekdays you'll have the same ID, but on weekends
This is for the integration class, right?
not integration. This is for Saturday and Sunday. This Saturday and Sunday class. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be sharing it.